Usually when a tech giant releases a major update, there's a parade.
Yeah.
Press releases, keynote speeches, confetti cannons, the works.
Oh, yeah.
But sometimes the most significant shifts happen in total silence.
The silent drop strategy. And honestly, those are often the ones you really need to pay attention to
Why is that?
because they aren't trying to sell you a vision. They're deploying infrastructure.
And that is exactly what happened with Amazon Bedrock this week. I opened up the console, just expecting the usual, and suddenly there were count them, six new open weight models just sitting there.
Yep.
No massive marketing blitz, just a quiet revolution in the model catalog.
It is a revolution, but not just because of the models themselves. It's about what's powering them underneath. We're talking about a new engine called Project Mantle.
Project Mantle, it sounds like something from a spy novel or maybe a geological layer.
A geological layer is actually a better metaphor. It's a foundational layer changing how enterprises consume AI. It's moving us away from just picking a model to plugging into a completely managed serverless inference engine.
One that speaks the same language as the rest of the industry.
Precisely.
So today on the Deep Dive, we're unpacking a massive week for Amazon Bedrock, specifically from February 9th to the 15th. We're talking about that flood of new models, the arrival of the heavyweight Claude Opus 4.6, and some developer tools like this fast template.
Right, the one that claims to cut deployment times from weeks down to minutes.
We'll see about that.
And we also have some real-world stories this week that are practically architectural blueprints for how to save money. I mean, we're talking about companies achieving 99% cost reductions.
99%. That sounds like a rounding error in the accounting department, but we'll get to how they actually pulled that off later. Let's start with the headline event, the silent drop on February 10th.
So AWS quietly released 6 fully managed open-weight models. We're seeing DeepSeek V3.2, Minimax M2.1, GLM 4.7, and its Flash variant Kimi K2.5, and Qwen 3 Coder next.
That is a whole lot of acronyms and version numbers. But the unifying theme here seems to be Project Mantle. Now, when you say it's a new engine, what does that actually mean for a developer? Is this just branding?
It's much more than branding. Think of Project Mantle as commoditizing the inference layer. Until now, if you built your application for, say, OpenAI, you were effectively stuck there.
Right. The API calls, the error handling, it's all specific.
Exactly. Project Mantle changes the game because it offers out-of-the-box OpenAI API compatibility.
Now, compatibility is a loaded word in tech. Usually that means it works 90% of the time and breaks on all the edge cases. Is this actually a drop-in replacement?
The initial reports from the dev community and folks like Gabriel Koo who analyze this suggest it's robust. It lowers the barrier to entry significantly. If you have existing code or tools built for other platforms, you can port them at Bedrock's new Bedrock Mantle endpoint, and they just work. You don't have to rewrite your entire application logic just to try a new model.
It breaks the vendor lock-in.
It completely breaks it. So AWS is basically saying, bring your existing code, change one line of configuration, and run it on our hardware for cheaper.
And that's the strategic play.
It is. And it allows for what people are now calling vibe coding.
I saw this term floating around. It sounds like something Gen Z came up with for TikTok, but it has a real technical application.
It's a funny name, I'll give you that, but it refers to flow state. When you're coding and you don't want to break focus to look up documentation or manage API keys, you just want the AI to vibe with you and fill in the blanks.
You want the tool to disappear.
Exactly. And Project Mantle enables this because you can route your local coding assistant like Claude Code or Cursor to these Bedrock models seamlessly.
So I could use a big, heavy model for a complex problem, and then what, just switch my config to use something cheaper for boilerplate?
Instantly. You keep the vibe alive because you aren't worrying about burning through your budget on simple tasks.
Speaking of those specific models, Kimi K2.5 by Moonshot AI stood out to me. Usually in the open weight world, you have to choose, right? Do you want a model that understands images or one that can use tools?
Right, it's an either or. Kimi breaks that dichotomy. It supports native image understanding and tool calling. That's a rare combo for a model you could just pick up and use via an API like this.
That seems like the holy grail for agents. You want an agent that can see a screenshot of a bug and then click a button or call an API to fix it.
It's essential. And then you have GLM 4.7 from Zupu AI. It's more of your solid all-rounder.
No vision, but good for text and code.
Exactly. It's a workhorse. It just gives developers options within that Project Mantle ecosystem.
Okay, so Project Mantle gives you all these fast, cheap models for the daily grind. But what happens when you hit a problem that requires a PhD-level intellect.
And that's where the other big drop comes in. Claude Opus 4.6. This landed on February 9th.
Opus has always been Anthropic's smartest model, but what's new here?
It's been specifically optimized for agentic tasks.
We keep hearing that word agentic. What makes Opus 4.6 better at being an agent than, say, Sonnet or Haiku? Is it just a bigger context window?
It's about deep reasoning and long horizon workflows. If you give an AI a task that takes 50 steps to complete, like audit this entire code base, find security flaws, and write a migration plan, most models get lost.
Yeah, around step 15, they forget the original goal.
They get distracted. It's like an intern who starts organizing the filing cabinet when you ask them to write a report.
A perfect analogy.
Opus 4.6 is designed to maintain that context and reliability over a long workflow. It's for when you need the model to think before it acts, repeatedly, without a human needing to nudge it back on track.
So Opus is the project manager, and the open weight models are the interns doing the quick tasks.
And AWS is giving you the infrastructure to hire the whole team.
Okay, let's move to the tools used to build these teams. Because having models is one thing, but building an app is another. AWS released something called the FAST template on February 9th. Fullstack AgentCore Solution Template.
This solves the blank page problem.
I have to be the skeptic here. I read the press release. Deploy a secure, production-ready agent stack in under 30 minutes. I mean, I've spent 30 minutes just trying to get my IAM roles to stop yelling at me.
I hear you, but it is surprisingly complete. It's a single CDK command. It sets up Amazon Cognito for authentication, DynamoDB for memory, and a React frontend.
It handles the auth, because that's usually the part that makes me want to quit a project before I even start.
It handles the auth, the database state, the front end. It drops time to hello world from days to minutes. But the most interesting part is something they call steering documents.
The name is a bit abstract.
Right.
What exactly is a steering document in this context?
Think of it like a contributing.md file, but for robots.
For the AI assistant itself.
Yeah. If you're using Claude Code to help you build your app, it needs to know the rules. It needs to know we use Tailwind for CSS, we use Jest for testing, and we follow this specific folder structure.
So the FAST template comes with a manual for the AI. So the AI knows how to write code for the FAST template.
That's the meta layer we've reached. You're using an AI to read the manual on how to build your AI app. It prevents the AI from hallucinating a library you don't use or writing code that breaks your architecture.
It's guardrails for the code generation itself. That makes sense. Now, once these agents are built, they often need to browse the web. But in a corporate environment, you can't just let a bot loose on the internet.
That is a security nightmare. So the update to the AgentCore Browser on February 13th is critical. They added support for proxy configuration.
And this is all about compliance, I'm guessing?
Entirely. It allows the agent to route its traffic through your corporate proxy. So you can whitelist a specific IP address, or maybe you need to appear to be in a specific country for geo-targeting.
And I saw it supports browser profiles now, too. Does that mean it can remember who I am?
It means it can maintain cookies and session state, just like a human. Without this, every time your agent visits a site, it's a brand new user. You would have to log in every single time. This lets it persist that state.
Which makes complex web workflows actually viable. There was another feature that went generally available on February 10th that I think will save developers a lot of headaches. Structured outputs.
This is one of those unsexy features that keeps the internet running.
For anyone who doesn't code, previously you'd just ask the model nicely to give you data in a specific format, and then you'd cross your fingers.
Right, you'd say, please give me valid JSON. The model would say, sure, here's your JSON, and then add a bunch of conversational text before and after the actual code.
Which immediately crashes your application.
With structured outputs, you define a JSON schema, and the API enforces it. The model must adhere to it. It makes these systems deterministic.
Deterministic is the key word for enterprise. Speaking of enterprise scale, we saw a massive number come out of AWS GovCloud this week.
The quota increase for Claude Sonnet 4.5.
Yeah.
It's eye-watering. They increased the default throughput 25 times.
25x is a huge jump. What are the actual numbers?
It went from roughly 200,000 tokens to 5 million tokens per minute.
That's a lot of government forms.
It just changes the operational reality for public sector agencies. They can run massive high-throughput analysis right out of the box now.
It seems like infrastructure was the dominant theme this week. It wasn't just about software, it was the pipes connecting it all. We saw an update regarding Private Link and that Bedrock Mantle endpoint.
Yes, on February 12th, this ties back to security. They enabled Private Link support for the new Mantle endpoint.
And why does private link matter? Is it just about speed?
It's about data sovereignty. It means you can use these new open-weight models without your data ever touching the public internet. It stays entirely within your AWS virtual private cloud, your VPC.
So if you're a bank or a hospital, this is non-negotiable.
Exactly. It brings the Wild West of open models into the secure fortress of the enterprise. And they expanded this regionally too. Sydney got the full suite of open models via that endpoint on the 12th.
That's big for our listeners in APAC. Beta residency laws are getting stricter every year.
Right. If you're an Australian company, you might not be legally able to send your customer data to the US for processing. Now you don't have to.
Moving on to safety. We've talked about Bedrock guardrails before, but there's a new standard tier now.
Until now, guardrails was often an all-or-nothing proposition. The standard tier, which came out this week, it gives you an intermediate level of protection.
The Goldilocks zone for safety.
Pretty much. It lets you balance cost against risk. Maybe you have an internal tool for summarizing meeting notes. You need some safety, but you don't need the same extreme filtering you'd put on a public-facing chatbot.
Makes sense. On the operational side, AWS released a guide on throttling that sounded technical but important. It talked about the circuit breaker pattern.
This is crucial for reliability. Think of a circuit breaker like a bouncer at a popular club.
Okay, I'm with you.
If the club is at capacity, the bouncer stops letting people in at the door. If he didn't, the whole place would get shut down. The circuit breaker is the digital bouncer for your application.
So instead of trying to process a million requests and crashing, it just rejects them immediately.
It fails fast. It rejects the traffic now so the server can recover and survive to process requests later.
Okay, we've covered the tech, the tools, the infrastructure, but my favorite part is always seeing how people are actually using this stuff.
Yeah.
And this week, we have a story from Swan Communications that, well, it sounded like a typo when I first read it.
IoT case study. Yeah, it's incredible.
Swan deployed Bedrock across almost 12 million devices, and they claim a 99.7% cost reduction. 99.7%. How is that even possible?
It's not magic, it's architecture. They used a tiered approach. They didn't just throw the most expensive model at every single video frame.
Because if you have 12 million cameras, that would bankrupt you in an hour.
They used smaller, faster models like Nova Lite for the bulk of the processing. Their main problem was false positives. You know how security cameras are always alerting you because a tree moved in the wind?
Or shadow changes.
Right? They used the cheaper models to identify those false positives and just suppress them. That alone reduced alert volume by 25%.
Yeah.
And they only call in the heavy models when there's something genuinely ambiguous.
So the small model says, that's a tree, ignore it. And the big model is only woken up when the small model says, I think that's a person.
Precisely. And because of this efficiency, they could enable natural language alerts. So instead of just motion detected, you can now say, notify me if a dog enters the backyard.
That turns a nuisance notification into actual value. And doing it while dropping cost by 99% is just, wow.
We also saw a great example from Iberdrola, the energy giant. They're using this for IT operations.
A classic enterprise use case.
Executed perfectly. They integrated AgentCore into ServiceNow. When an incident comes in, they use a smart solver agent.
And this agent is doing more than just keyword matching.
It's using semantic search via PG Vector on Amazon RDS. So if a server crashes, it doesn't just look for the word crash, it looks for the meaning of the error logs. It finds similar historical incidents.
So it says, hey, this looks exactly like the outage we had 3 months ago, and here's the patch we applied then.
It creates institutional memory instantly. It drastically cuts down resolution time.
There was one more case study from the finance world, Linkolfa. They built something called the Devil's Advocate.
I love this application. In finance, confirmation bias is a killer. You fall in love with an investment thesis, and you subconsciously ignore all the warning signs.
You only read the news that agrees with you.
Linkolfa built a multi-agent system on Bedrock to challenge their own ideas. It reads the investment thesis and explicitly tries to tear it apart. It generates counterarguments, looks for risks the human missed.
It's like hiring a customized skeptic who never gets tired of telling you why you're wrong.
And it proves Bedrock can handle these high-stakes reasoning tasks where millions of dollars are on the line.
So looking back at this week, February 9th to the 15th, it really feels like a turning point.
It really does. If you look at the synthesis of all these updates, and we aren't just talking about generative AI anymore. We are firmly in the era of agentic AI.
It's the shift from chat to work.
The host of models, Project Mantle, the open weights, that gives you the engine. But the release of the fast template, the browser proxies, the structured outputs, that is the infrastructure of agency.
AWS is betting the house that the next interface isn't a text box. It's an agent that goes out and does things for you.
And importantly, they're making it usable in a corporate environment. It's not just a demo on a laptop anymore. It's private link, it's GovCloud, it's compliance.
That's the key distinction. Innovation is great, but deployable innovation is what changes industries. This week was about removing the blockers that kept agents in the lab. So, here is the question we want to leave you with today. We talked about the fast template deploying a secure full-stack agent in 30 minutes. If your competitor can now spin up an intelligent agent to automate their customer service or their market research or their code migration, and they can do it in half an hour, what does that mean for your speed of innovation?
Are you still building the plumbing while they're already building the house?
Something to think about while you stare at your own backlog. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Amazon Bedrock. We'll see you next time.